Next up is Esther Kurland from Urban Design London, who we're talking about. Sam gave a bit of a sneak peek what we're going to be talking about. This the concept of multi-timed places.
Hello, thank you very much. A fascinating run through. So many issues, so much important information there. One thing I just throw in at the beginning on this is our environments tend to reflect our economies and what are the driving forces that people are spending money on. And the 20th century, people spent money on white goods, cars, and petrol a lot of the time, and therefore we have metro land with space for white goods and lawnmowers and etc., and we have a car-dominated environment because that is what the economy was creating. And I don't think we should underestimate the impact that the economy drivers have. So when we're looking at what happens next, when we look at the experience economy, it does actually give us some hope that we can change places to be more the sorts of things that we've just been hearing about, because they create the environment that makes money. And I think that's something we haven't, as an industry in urban design, haven't really sort of grappled with yet. Maybe Matthew is another piece of work for you to do. But what I'm going to do very, very briefly is talk about something that we did at UDL, it's Urban Design Learning, because we've got London, we run training and support for local authorities around the country. But we did about the same time as we were supporting Matthew on the home comforts piece of work as well. And it started off with what we called an urban challenge, looking at how we're doing things and what's going on. We had about 500 people involved, loads of workshops. And we, everyone was putting ideas in. And it was very clear that there's tons of ideas for improving cities and other types of places, but there was no framework that pulled them together, not since the Urban Renaissance work from Richard Rogers 25 odd years ago, and the compact city approach. And that meant things were not, there was nothing that made it more than the sum of the parts. And what I'm suggesting here is not the be all and end all of it, but is what came out of that piece of work, which was multidisciplinary, and it very much was about living local, promoting living local, and when you say 15, 10, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, it's about the neighbourhoods and the local centres being the bedrock of all places. And it's also about the city structures, because if you try and make everywhere just a neighbourhood, it doesn't work. They have to fit like a jigsaw together into a logical pattern, and that requires connectivity. And actually, what we ended up with all these conversations saying, well, as a policy, can we aim for fewer journeys? So it's not fewer journeys, fewer miles travelled, not fewer journeys, but fewer miles travelled. So we're not saying that people should be isolated or not travel. It's just that they're travelling shorter journeys, which does then allow for more active travel types. And to do that, our buildings need to move from monoculture, mono-use, mono-investment to flexible, multi-use resources. But all of those things don't work by themselves. You can't achieve any one of them without the other one, or the other three. You can put them in all different orders if you want to, but they are all delivered by different parts of the built environment management processes, whether it's highways or architects or planners or investment companies, etc. The real challenge is how to then get all of these different players to work together with a common goal and a common strategy or framework that everyone agrees is the way forward. And so one of the ideas that came out of this piece of work was the multi-timed place. And it was, to a certain extent, a reaction to some of the backlash against the 15-minute city concept, because, as you've said, it gets misunderstood and therefore picked up as confusion between the low traffic neighbourhood and the 15-minute city, which has led to thinking it's all about anti-car, and then politically it loses traction. So this was kind of saying, well, it doesn't have to be a bit like that. And it's really saying that there's the neighbourhood is absolutely vital, but it sits within other spatial dimensions in terms of place design and place management, the home circle and urban life, or civic life, you could say. And if we're using travel time as a scale on this, we're talking about up to 12 minutes, we could say, as the home circle. Then we've got 12 to 20, roughly speaking, as a neighbourhood, and then urban life or civic life as the things that are further away, a bigger scale in terms of the way we structure places. And I've got some pictures for each one of these scales here just to try to bring it live. This is very, very short talk. Happy to discuss it afterwards if it's used for anybody. And all the pictures I've got here from Cambridge, mainly because my son's just moved to Cambridge, but also because it's a fantastic place. So the 1 minute place is the hyper local sense places. It's the home and the bits around the home. Do they work well? Do they work with deliveries? Do they work with home working? Here, this is in Knights Park in Cambridge. Some of the buildings, some of the homes have been designed so the ground floors can be shop windows or they can be workshops, etc. The flexibility has been designed in, and this particular one is being used by an artist as an artist studio, so that you're sort of starting to break away the mono use and allow for that mixed use in a flexible and a pragmatic way, which isn't requiring anyone to decide what that building and that room is used for now. It's just building it in, the opportunity, which actually increases the value, which makes it more deliverable. Oh, I think I just pressed the wrong button. Then the 5 minute place is the neighbour spaces. I always call them neighbour spaces, the shared spaces that you know everyone you probably see there. And so you're sort of not there that many people are using them, but they're using it a lot. And you know, that's where this is Marmalade Lane in Cambridge. When it's not raining, everyone's outside, just a few houses using the bit of street. In this case, the bit behind the wall where they're sitting is the private garden, and the bit where the kids are playing is the shared amenity space. That's a co-living development, but the concept of neighbour space, I've seen it delivered beautifully within blocks of flats where the corridor areas become a bit bigger and they've got a window and some seating, and you've suddenly got a space where 5 or 6 homes can actually come together. It's only, you have to look at the scale, because if these places get too big, you can't manage them and somebody takes them over and it all goes wrong. 15-minute places, I'm sure what you've just been talking about, 15, 20, whatever it is, it's the local shops. And I'm saying here, you probably see some people you know there and some you don't. And I'm using whether you know people to understand, you know, as an expression of the scale. And that's where you go and buy your milk and your whatever. And as Matthew said earlier, people want this within 10 minutes, basically. They don't actually want 15 minutes, but, you know, you can do more research on that, how it works. And then your 30-minute place, there is a lot of civic identity to this. So this is Cambridge Market Square. It can be used for lots of different civic uses. It's where you might go once a week. It may be where the swimming pool is that you go and use, or whatever it is like that. So you've got more people using it, but less often. We've got a scale of the number of people using a place. So it's catchment areas. These scales are about catchment areas, really. And the 60-minute place is the thing. It's more than 60 minutes. People will come thousands of miles to go to look at King's College in Cambridge. And, you know, these are very busy places. We need all of them to work together to create and to understand and plan at these different scales, to nest them. One place could be somebody's home circle and somebody else's 60-minute place. And we need to understand that to be able to then prioritize how the space works, who uses it in which ways. And this little, I think this is my last slide, is just trying to look at how these different scales, home circle, neighbourhood, urban life, civic life, work for transport planners, biodiversity, blue-green infrastructure people, highway designs and architects. And what sort of, like, if you look at the travel, just what sort of mode of travel are we looking at as needed for these different types of scales? I think what we do at the moment is we do in silos, do some of that planning for transport, and we do some of it for highway design as well, etc. But when it comes down to the home circle particularly, we're really not requiring anything. And the home circle is probably the area of least interest in terms of policy terms at the moment. I'm spending almost all of my working life at the moment working on authority-wide design codes. Just finished a 5-day school for 50 local authorities that Tanya was at, but I'm doing loads of other work with lots of pathfinders because I'm involved with the office place as well. And the this kind of the design code concept could be picked up. This can be moved into it to actually require this flexibility and homeliness and productivity at the very micro scale, which we just don't require. Because we don't require that, people feel that they have to always journey somewhere else to live their life. And I do have a personal bugbear with the way that the urban Renaissance concepts, which are complicated concepts, for London particularly, have been concertinaed down into density, accessibility. Got a station, build a lot on it. Well, that just means that you're saying, live there, travel somewhere else to live. It's not actually creating a 20-minute neighbourhood. It's not helping to create the sorts of places that we want to do so. There is an opportunity to go and use other facilities elsewhere, but it allows us, that concept, just build high density at stations, allows us to forget about building in what people need at the home circle and the neighbourhood around that station as well. It gives us an out, because it's okay if there's nothing here. You can go and get on a train if you can afford it and go and find it somewhere else. So that, I just wanted to introduce this multi-timed place concept just as a backup to your great talk there. So I think that was hopefully less than 10 minutes. So I did trying to make it very quick. Thank you.